Okay, we'll call the meeting to order and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. And can I have a motion to accept the agenda?
I move. Second.
Thank you. And any additions to the agenda? Okay, I have one. I have correspondence from Region 1. So I will share that with you. Well, that'll be 5A, or no, not 5A, 6A. Thank you. Okay. So would somebody like to second that addition? Okay. Any other additions or changes, corrections? Okay, all in favor of accepting the agenda? Any opposed? Okay. Approval of minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. So we can approve them in one fell swoop.
Mhm.
So, all right, any discussion, corrections, additions? No? Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? All right. Okay, public, want to comment? Okay,
I like how fast this meeting's moving.
hey,
Yeah,
I'm
we've been
working
good.
on it. I'm working on it.
We're efficient.
So,
Mhm.
I got house guests at home too, so it'd be good to get home and see them. Okay, any report from Board of Ed?
Correspondence.
Oh, I beg your pardon. I'm sorry, I jumped ahead.
Mhm.
Hold that thought. All right. We have a letter here from Region 1, and it says negotiations with Kent Center School teachers. Dear Count of Kent Board of Finance, please be advised that the Board of Ed for the Kent Public Schools, the board will commence negotiations in August 2022 for a successor collective bargaining agreement with the association that represents the teachers in Kent. I am able to meet and confer on behalf of the board with the fiscal authority of the town of Kent prior to the initial negotiation session in this matter. Please contact me to discuss a possible meeting time for any such discussion. In addition, a member of the fiscal authority of the town is entitled to attend these negotiations to serve as an observer and resource for the board. And that's an important differentiation. You are not part of the negotiation committee. You are just there as an observer and a resource. The Board of the Teachers will convene an initial negotiation session in late August or early September. At that initial session, the parties will select additional dates in September and October for further negotiation sessions. For your information, the statutory timeline for negotiations between the board and the association is that by August 18th, negotiations must commence, and October 7th, mediation begins. So if there's no agreement at that point, then other parties get involved and it's expensive, right? Yeah. If no settlement is reached through the negotiation process, the board and association will participate in a mediation session on a date selected by the parties and the mediator between October 7th and 31st. The parties do not reach a settlement and mediation on or before the 4th day following mediation or on the 155th day prior to the board's budget submission date, whichever is earlier, the parties must name their advocate arbitrators or the single impartial arbitrator they have selected for arbitration. Unless the parties have selected a single arbitrator, the advocate arbitrators must select the third neutral arbitrator within 5 days of the selection of advocate arbitrators. The first hearing is then scheduled between the 5th and the 12th day after the selection of the single or neutral arbitrator, and the arbitration hearing must be concluded within 25 days after the initial hearing. Thus, as a practical matter, if it becomes necessary to proceed in arbitration in this matter, the substantive hearings will occur in early November. Please contact me if I can provide any further information about the negotiation process. Sincerely, Lisa Carter, Superintendent. So that's what's going on. So if someone on this board would like to be a resource and observer, you can think about it. We've got a little bit of time before August 18th. and I could let Superintendent Carter know. Okay? And of course,
Is there anybody
Scott.
on the Zoom? or-
Yes,
Jason.
Jason's here.
Jason just.
Yeah, I'm on.
And you look like you're someplace very nice, Jason.
I see those palm trees.
Yeah,
I have a house in Mexico. I have not been since COVID. So actually, it looks great, fun, but it's things like getting the roof fixed and whatever also. So a little fun and a little work.
glamour of home ownership.
Right.
For that.
Yeah, Jason, did you hear what I was reading? The letter from
Yes.
Superintendent Carter?
I did. Thank you. Mhm.
Okay, so if that's something you're interested in, think about it.
Okay.
We can all discuss it, okay?
Terrific. Thanks.
All right. Scott, please, the report.
I wish I had something more specific for you tonight. In light of what happened in Texas, we were gonna have one anyway, but we had a safety committee meeting at the school. And before,
Can Jason here?
can you hear me, Jason?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
So before we dove into, issues of adjustments to our security, we wanted to have that safety committee meeting first. That happened on Monday. And we have a special meeting of the board scheduled next Tuesday, I believe, where we're going to discuss the recommendation that they made to hire a resource officer for the school.
Ah.
So I don't want to get ahead of the board. We haven't discussed it with the board. There's been no decision made, but it's what we'll be discussing next week. And it's possible that we will be coming back with a request.
And Madam Chair, just a question on that issue. In terms of the role of this board, I assume the role of this board is simply to review the finances of that, correct?
Yes, yeah, we do not weigh in on what they're doing, and oftentimes with security measures and stuff for schools, those aren't big public discussions. They're
Right.
rather close to the vest,
But we would
Okay.
have to, it's not in our, so
right?
we'll have to discuss it. And,
Yep.
A school resource officer we want that to be public if it happens. So-
Mhm.
So that's possibly on the radar, possibly other or nothing. And so we'll have to talk about it next week, and I'll be in touch with you against.
Yeah.
See if we can propose anything, get anything proposed.
Okay, sounds good. All right. All right. And anything else?
I don't think anything else that you guys would be really interested in. The solar project looks like it might be getting pushed. We're having trouble with the Green Bank right
Yeah.
now, so
Oh,
they haven't, the ball's in their court and they're not taking the next step. Sent out engineers and they said they're having trouble with their suppliers getting panels from China, and so
yep.
my guess is it's probably gonna get pushed this till next summer earliest, but they're still saying they're gonna get it done this summer, so.
Fingers crossed. Everybody's having a terrible time.
Yeah, I kind of figured it. Tough times,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Well, when I have to know more, I'll let you know, but
Okay,
it's great.
okay, great. So, Madam Tax Collector,
I'll just give you my collector report, since it's over 99%. And we're in surplus territory, so it's a nice report, so I'm happy to get it out there. So, as I said, it's 99.3%, which gives us a budgeted surplus when you count the back taxes and the current taxes of $135,703 for taxes, and a budgeted surplus. We have to collect 40,000 in interest, and the surplus on that is 26,423. So that's will be added to the surplus,
okay. All right.
and I'll do my other later on.
Right, yeah, we've got it later on in the agenda. Okay, very good. All right, Board of Selectmen.
Hi.
Hey,
I have a number of things that are either direct or related to finance. The COG has been working on broadband the broadband initiative for some time. The towns had sort of gone out on their own to investigate and explore the possibility of going their own way with broadband. And then the COG recently had interest from a large broadband vendor. And we, at the last COG meeting, we planned a regional broadband meeting, because what we found, obviously, it makes more sense to do this from a regional perspective rather than, Kent doing their thing or doing their thing. And we all have different cable suppliers. Most have Comcast, we have Spectrum, obviously, but there's Optimum. So it's a mishmash for our northwest corner. And it really makes sense from a leverage standpoint to do this from a regional perspective. So that meeting's coming up in the next couple of weeks. We're working with Mather Corp, which is the contractor for this phase 1 of the streetscape, on timeline for beginning phase 1. They had a minor hiccup with some materials. As we just heard, all materials are very difficult to find, but they were successful in getting the curbing. They just had to do a little bit more reach out because the supply chains are just a mess. So we're hoping to get a timeline from them soon as far as a shovel in the ground, and so we can share it with the town. Phase 2 is in the early stages of the work plan with SLR, which was the designer for the phase 1. And they're working on the schedule of work, and then will be the preliminary design. So we have been meeting weekly with our sort of concierge person at DOT. We've just moved those to monthly because right now it's going to be like 4 or 5 months probably before we hear anything again. So we keep having regular meetings with them so that we're always checking in. Barbara, Rick, and I just have a huddle with this guy regularly, but that's continuing to move forward, which is great. And having this concierge is just a game changer because they take care of everything. They're 2 Saturdays ago, I met John Worthington at the Swift House and conducted an ARPA checklist assessment. So there's this 70-ish page checklist that the federal government puts out to basically walk through a building and see if it's compliant. And so I have that checklist that I'm looking forward to selecting tomorrow night. And that's going to be sort of the baseline for what do we need to do next to become compliant for that building, which will, to a certain extent.
You meant
find out
ADA,
where-
not ARPA.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, ADA.
As soon as you said that, I'm like.
You said ARPA.
What?
My
And I'm here
looks
saying,
like
is
a
there
P.
ARPA money that would
I'm so
apply to the
sorry.
Swift House?
ADA checklist.
Okay.
So, and John Worthington is the EDA coordinator in Litchfield, so he was obviously very generous in offering up an extended Saturday morning with me going through this checklist. So that's sort of moving in the hopper. I don't know what's going to come of that. The Swift House Task Force, intersects with all of this as far as what the future will be of that building. We're waiting on a grant, and we should be hearing in the next week or so that HRRA applied for on our behalf to DEEP for a composting or a food scrap composting pilot program at the transfer station. So residents would get a kit if they wanted to participate, which would include a table, a countertop scrap bucket, a little toter, and that would be sort of their ticket for Rick to know that they're participating. Those would, we would work with a vendor through HRRA, and it's a commercial composter, so you would be able to put bones and oil and all. They have a big pile down in Milford, one of the vendors. Yeah, so it's pretty exciting, and I'm confident that will be awarded that grant. So, and Jen Heaton Jones, who's the executive director down at HRRA, she is a everything sustainable materials management rock star. She is highly respected across the country, and we're very lucky to have her. And she will take us through the whole thing, like soup to nuts. She's gonna come up and do education with the residents, so it's pretty exciting.
Is there any impact, on, given that the, out of this, the stream, we're gonna remove a lot of the compostables? Does that change what we're gonna wind up paying for at the land station? What the town is gonna pay? Would it reduce it at all?
Yes, absolutely. So we pay by the ton for SW or municipal solid waste, and the data shows that is coming from across the country that composting or food scrap can account for up to 40% of the
Wow.
total waste. It is the heaviest thing in your garbage can.
Right.
I'm the smelliest.
And the smelliest. And something interesting that Jen Jones I had this epiphany about. She said, our municipal solid waste is trash to energy, so it gets burned up. And so you're taking matter that is largely water, and now you're trying to burn that, and burning water is sort of, a fool's errand. So it costs more to burn that stuff. So why not take it out of the stream? For so many reasons, it's a good idea.
So question for you relating to the composting too. So will there be composting or compost that's available for residents to utilize?
So one of the vendors does offer that, and we'll have to see which vendor gets picked. But
Mhm.
I think I like that idea because it's creates a closed loop.
Yes.
Um,
Rather than trucking it off someplace?
Right.
Will they be making the compost at this transfer station?
No, it gets taken to, it's commercially composted
Ah,
at a facility in another
oh, okay. I was wondering, with the bears here,
town. Yeah,
that's gonna be
Ridgefield-
interesting.
Ridgefield is the one town in our authority that has recently stood up their own like on-site composting, and and they have a a much larger transfer station. It's like a whole different kettle of fish down there, not to be too funny. So we'll see how that goes, and having it offsite, I think, is good for us,
Mhm.
especially with our bear population these days. I had a meeting this morning with Eversource, so they meet with us in the beginning of the hurricane season to talk about their emergency response plan and how, because of what happened with Isaias, there's this whole order basically through HERA that they have to comply with, and things like being more in touch with their town elected officials, with their emergency management. So they're also going to be having a meeting with Eric to talk about the emergency response plan, just to make sure that all of our ducks are in a row, so that, if a hurricane happens, and they are expecting a much more active than usual hurricane season, that those connections and those communications are already there. And we have a great relationship with Daniel. He's fantastic. He also, I don't know if is Jim on the line?
No, he's not with us tonight.
This is just for him. He also brought me some information on Eversource has a new program for electric vehicle charging stations. They have a big rebate program
good.
that's going on, and it's for municipalities, but also for businesses. So I'll be sharing this with the chamber as well. And they offer, and it's all the level 2 chargers, which is the standard now. They're giving rebates of up to $20,000 for per site. So it wouldn't be for our town, it would be actually let's say the pharmacy wanted to have a charging station, they might be eligible for up to $20,000 for a rebate. And I think I've mentioned before, the Federal Highway Administration recently designated Route 7 from Milford to Mass as one of those alternative vehicle charging corridors. So we'll also be seeing grant money flowing down from there, and they want to really designate, they want to get a lot of sites along this corridor. So we should be seeing some decent funding to make that happen.
So 2 questions on that, because one of the issues I know that we had with the charging station here was that there were people who would leave their cars here overnight.
Yeah.
And so the question is, A, they will be paying for the charging. We're not putting the bill anymore. these will have credit card readers or whatever. And the second thing is there a way to build in, if you are plugged in more than X amount of time, we will charge a fee for that, and that will enable us to utilize those monies to maintain the charging station, and also free it up for somebody else to use.
Yeah, I can look into it if we're, I know there's a lot of regulation on EV charging stations, but so this is a level 1 and it takes hours and hours and hours to charge your car, but everything going forward is going to be a level 2 or a level 3. The level 2s do it very quickly. So from what I've understood from just anecdotal feedback, I often see people here on the weekends leaving their car. They say in other places where they can do, have access to those level 2 chargers, they say it's really just a matter of like a couple of hours, 2 hours, and we will go and shop or go have lunch, and then they'll come and pick the car up. So the people who are buying electric cars and using electric cars they're changing their behavior because there's, I don't even think you can buy a level 1 anymore, because why would anyone
Who has the
put one of
time?
those in, right?
Yeah.
So I think the behavior is going to change pretty quickly when we start seeing them in our area, and obviously more prevalent in all the
Yeah,
big car.
I think I know. I park when I'm going to New York down at Southeast, and they have charging, at the train station there. And I think you get a ticket, is probably, want to talk an efficient transaction. You just get a ticket on the windshield you have to pay, as opposed to your credit card or anything, I guess. So there are different ways of doing it. So I'm certain you'll take a look at all the options for that.
For sure.
I have one other question, Jane, going back to one of the other topics that no, you haven't touched on it yet. I thought of it when you were talking about the broadband. So is the cell tower on 341 operational yet? Okay. What else you got?
We're starting the purposeful move to reconnoiter the second floor offices because we're running out of space. So this, and we're going to talk about it at the Board of Selectmen meeting tomorrow night, but it's likely that we're going to lose this as a meeting space. There's too many people and not enough floor space for everybody and everything that needs to happen.
Desks.
So we'll be over the summer, hopefully sooner than later, we'll be doing some movement up on the second floor. And really the
And
last,
that's built into the budget?
no, we're not looking at, really the only expense is going to be making sure we have technology coming out of the walls. That's going to be the biggest expense.
So you're just gonna have open office space?
Well, so this may be the registrars of voters, and they would just recreate sort of what they have down there over here. So they have all the desks that they need. But I don't know if the Cat 5 that's behind you is actually on or goes to anything. So we have to probably hire an electrician to see if that wiring is connected to anything, and then we have to connect to it. It's not, just downstairs.
So you're not talking walls then?
No,
Okay.
no construction.
Oh, okay, all right,
Wanted to say.
all right, that's what I was getting
Yeah,
at,
sorry.
Yeah.
Other than my ponies and rainbows wish of being able to put the elevator up to the 3rd floor so we could use that humongous space that's up there that's being not used for anything. It's wild how much room is up there, but we can't do anything with it. There's a third floor.
It's what?
We'll do a little field trip at the end of the meeting. You will be shocked at how much room there is.
Wow.
It could be the new meeting room.
How do you access it now?
Set of stairs right opposite the ladies'
Yeah.
Oh,
room. And the last thing is the Medic 4 update. So our Medic 4, 7-town ALS provider. We have a 1-year extension on that contract to June 30th of 2023. And the fire department has formed a staffing committee that they asked me to be an ex officio member, so I'm not voting, but be part of that conversation. So there's that connector. And the 7 towns have also been meeting. And the 7 towns have been meeting primarily to talk about the ALS contract. And at the last meeting, New Milford, which we've seen coming, but New Milford actually said out loud that they do not see being able to take on that regional program. They're an ALS service, but they all but said that they would be likely stepping out of the contract moving forward, which is a challenge.
It's anticipated. Yeah, we talked about that a bit
Yeah,
during the
and I
budget.
just want
Yeah.
to make sure that I keep talking about it. We, for 26 years, have had a sweetheart deal through Campion and then what became Trinity. The guy who was running the program from the paramedic provider end of things was really wanting the program just to succeed. I mean, they probably should have been charging us a lot more, but they never did. There was a big increase this year for that 1-year extension they don't know about. And there is a statewide and countrywide shortage of paramedics that continues. And paramedic providers are being finally starting to get paid the hourly rates that they're supposed to get paid, but that's all, tough news for us.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of different models that we can look at, but it does create, so you have these 7 towns, but then the middle one will no longer be there. So now you've got Kent, Warren, Washington, and Sherman over here, and then Bridgewater, Roxbury.
Mhm.
So there's a bunch of likely scenarios. We don't know how it's all going to come out in the wash, but it's, it won't be as what it was before, and it's going to be more expensive.
What does Warren do?
Warren is part of this.
They are part of it. Okay.
So it's there's a lot of geography challenges when you take that piece, and that piece is 40% of the contract. So they are
Mhm.
by leaps and bounds the biggest piece of that contract.
Mhm.
So it starts to break up, Sherman being where they are, they're a quick trip right into New Milford. So it's possible that New Milford could absorb them. They could probably absorb one service.
Okay.
Roxbury and Bridgewater being so far south, there's plenty of providers.
A lot of options down there. It's the northwest corner that's the problem. Yeah. Yep.
So there's a number of conversations that we're having. Trinity is willing to come to the table. They just had a big management shakeup, so we were able to figure out who the new leadership was, and we'll be moving forward, at least opening the conversation to see if there's any, anything creative. But
What about going over the state line?
the paramedic provider over there has got a lot of contracts and not enough ambulances. And that state line, they can only bring ambulances that are certified in both states. And
Mm.
right now they only have 2 ambulances, but those ambulances also get used on their New York contracts.
Okay.
So we've found, and Bonnie can attest to this, that there have been a lot of times where the fire department requests Northern Dutchess because they're going, I don't know, they're up on Skid Mountain, right? And they're going to Sharon. Why would you call the medic from New Milford to just do a car chase to go up to Sharon Hospital? And they're unavailable because they have so many contracts on the New York State corridor that their ambulances are just tied up and they can't respond.
And the Massachusetts line is too far for Kent. Yeah,
And North Canaan does do some coverage for that.
I'm
but,
sure.
That's
Yeah.
a far trip north. So there's creativity to solving this, but it's going to take a lot of conversation.
Okay.
So to make sure that you all were aware of it on early time.
Okay. What else you got?
Pretty much it.
Okay. Thank you. Barbara.
So I put the printed copy of my report on
Oh.
the table.
Excuse me, I
I
didn't grab.
apologize, Jason, I didn't email it to everybody because I just finished it literally 5 minutes before the meeting, but I will
Right.
email it after the meeting.
That's good.
It's the
Thank you.
Same typical report that I usually provide. The top section is a bunch of different meetings that I attended the last month. The middle section shows the number of transactions and the dollar amount associated with those transactions for the 4 different categories. The lower third or the middle, I don't know which one to call it. The bigger section in the middle is the actual versus budget to date. And on the very bottom, I put the estimated budget transfers that will be necessary as of today. They probably will change a little bit. The total, when you add them all up, is $59,450. That'll need to be moved around from different places in the budget to cover these shortages in these places.
So when do you think you'll have final budget changes? August?
Well, I'd like to have them by the June or July meeting,
Mhm.
but I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get all my departments to
Right,
get me information.
right.
So August would make it easier for me, but
Mhm. Okay, all right. And, okay, I might as well bring it up now. The, the staffing. I'm sorry, I'm scooping you. It's the next section.
okay,
Yeah,
the EMS staffing?
yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
that's fine. I don't really have anything. This is all I have. I've
okay.
been a little busy with our spots.
Yeah, it'll consume you. All right. Any questions for Barb? Okay, all right. So we have no old business, but we have the tax suspense list to look at. Deb, would you like to talk to that?
Sure, it's, as I said, it is a very short report. It's just, we're down to 15 people, 15 accounts that I would like to put on suspense. As you know, suspense is still collectible, but it's taken off the books as a real asset for the town.
Mhm,
So it's an auditor thing.
mhm.
What's the total amount?
$1,082.08.
Wow.
I know, we're down to nickels and dimes, folks,
Yeah,
literally.
so would someone like to make a motion to
Did they have-
move that off the, out of the assets? Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any other questions or discussions relating to it? Okay, all in favor?
I,
Okay, all right. The next one is more of a discussion item,
Mhm.
unless you want to talk about the other report that you sent to us.
Oh, no, you once said to me that you wanted all numbers.
Yes.
So I sent you
Beautiful,
every number I could come up with.
thank you.
got it.
I do have a question for you, though. You can't scan this as one document, it has to be separate pages?
I could probably try. I guess I didn't give it a lot of thought.
Yeah, you should be able to scan it as a single document, which would.
Next time you get it, it'll be a single
That'd
document.
be great, thank you. Thank you. The next one is a part of a discussion that we had started a little bit earlier in the year, and we said we'd kind of put it aside until we got through budget season. And it was talking about the department budget and the line overruns, and that right now there is nothing in place to dissuade a department from overrunning their lines as long as they don't blow the bottom line. And if they blow the bottom line, they have to come to us and request a budget transfer. So do you want to speak to that at all?
Well, I would like to see a policy put in place
Mhm.
to address it.
Now, is that a policy that should be done by the Board of Finance, or should it be done jointly with Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance?
I think it would
It'd be
be
a
Board of
town-
Finance policy.
Okay, all
May
right.
not be having to work on it this week.
Okay, all right. Any thoughts of how that policy, how it should be? What the elements would be in that policy?
Well, what is basically happening now? Is it a free? Once the budget's in
So
place,
the-
it can,
each department is broken up into 3 sections. The top section is the salaries and wages and benefits. The middle section is departmental operations, which is supplies and software and that kind of thing. And the very bottom section of the department is usually training and related things. So what's happening now is the departments are looking at their bottom line and saying that they aren't going over their bottom line, so they're overspending in different categories that they didn't budget for just because they know they've got money left in the budget. And so I think at the very least, a policy would need to state that they aren't allowed to spend any salary and wage lines that on anything other than
Salary
salaries
and
and
wage.
wages,
Mhm.
and that they can't move between the lines, so that if they've got a clerk line that has $10,000 in it, that doesn't necessarily mean that, oh, now the treasurer can get $10,000 more because there's $10,000 left. in the line. So there need to be some delineation there. And then my theory. on
Doesn't the Board of Selectmen set the
They do,
wages for these
they do.
positions?
They do, but right now, the bottom line of the department, because the wages are in the department, that's still considered department. So,
Right, but a person who's working here cannot, the head of
Well,
a
I was
department
just using
cannot
that
pay
as an
themselves
example.
more
So
than what they're,
maybe a better
Salary.
I'm
example,
glad you're clarifying.
yeah,
maybe a better example would be, so we have money left over in our cook line, so we're gonna go buy a filing cabinet,
mhm,
which has actually happened this year. So
okay. And was the filing cabinet unnecessary?
I don't know, but I just feel that there needs to be a policy. These types of furniture expenditures can be very expensive, and if they're unbudgeted, why are they being unbudgeted? Why? All of this stuff
If-
should be,
I've got a question or a comment. Which is, it sounds to me like what you really need is whenever you're gonna get out of your approved lane, even within your department, that there just has to be a percentage which we allow departments to, operate within, and anything above that, you need to come to the Board of Finance for approval on. I mean, that I think would be a good control, correct?
And a very common percentage that is used is 10%.
Right.
You may not go, exceed a tolerance of 10%
You
without.
got it. That's, I would agree with that, yeah.
Commission. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
that's where I was going to. That's exactly where I was.
good,
Because the whole purpose of budgeting is to budget what you need.
right.
And if you find that you're budgeting and you have a surplus every single year, then you're not budgeting.
Exactly.
And we need to watch that and
Right.
not have that money budgeted. Yeah. And so does Board of Selectmen.
So anyway, that's what I would like to see. I'd like to see a policy.
Yep,
Mhm.
And I'd also like to see, since we're talking about, even though it's not part of that, is policies. I'd like to see a capital policy as well. To eliminate things like the park and rec pool money that's been sitting there since 2016.
as far as the timeline to expend it.
Yeah, I mean, if it marches across the capital plan, it takes 5 years to do it,
Mhm,
and then it sits there for 4 or 5 years too.
mhm.
That's not fair to taxpayers that we've taxed them this funding, and it's not being utilized.
Well, the Park and Rec Department was pretty much non-existent for a while.
Not in 2016. it
No, I'm
wasn't.
not saying 2016, I'm just saying it was. So I think that is something for the Park and Rec Department to come back to us on,
Well, I
to
just
ask the
use them as an
question.
example, but
But it's a glaring one, it's a perfectly fair example.
so in general, I think if there was a little bit of a tighter policy on it, then capital projects would be started, finished, closed out. My capital project report, and I don't have one with me, but it used to be 15 or 20 lines, and now it's getting to be 2 pages because
Well, that's actually the next meeting. Let's put a review of that, of,
well, I usually give one at the end. I try to give a capital report twice a year, every
Mhm.
6 months,
mhm.
in January and then January.
But since we're talking about it and talking about a policy, I think it'd be timely to just where we are today. I mean, I know everything won't be buttoned up to your satisfaction for year end or anything, but just just show it to
Mhm.
everybody and sensitize everybody to it and really, you start to talk about it,
Yeah, I think
think about it.
there's probably the one I just presented, and I know I didn't present it in January, it's late, so it's either your last meeting or the meeting before, I should be appended to your minutes. The capital report that I did.
During budget season.
Mhm.
I don't know how much anybody looked at it, in whole
No, but
honesty,
it would be
but we
appended to
can,
minutes.
we
Right.
could look at it,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'll
that's fine.
certainly provide you.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, on the face of it, I don't think either of those policies is, I don't have a problem with either policy.
No.
being put in place. I think that's
Right.
important for
Right.
transparency
Mhm.
and
These are,
control. I mean, I'm
these
not
are-
allowed,
yeah.
I'm the boss of my organization and I'm not allowed to spend 10% outside of the
Right.
budget without going to. the
Provides
board.
continuity. too,
Absolutely.
There's no question.
Right.
Don't have to wonder.
well, it's
Right.
it's a good business practice, just in general,
Yeah.
so.
There's also gives the auditors something to measure
Mhm.
against.
Mhm.
The policies.
Yep.
Yeah,
So, yeah, so take a look at it. We can talk about it the next meeting.
Sure.
Okay?
Yeah.
Can
I'll
you-
send you one before
Yeah.
your next meeting, so you'll have time
Good.
before the meeting. So you
Yeah.
have to try to get
But it would, if you could tell us what, like what the date was when you did the last one, and we know what minutes to go look at. Would that be printed on the report? You could just pick it off the report.
I think sending it would be easier.
Yeah. All right. All right. All right, you're on the hook to do that then. Thanks, Barbara. Okay. Any other, since we're throwing around policies, as we think of more, we can talk about them. These occur to you all.
FOA has tons they want me to put in.
Oh, I'm sure they do, but
Yeah.
again, we're not Manhattan, so we only need so many. Yeah.
I think that those two would be a great start.
Yeah, they would be, definitely. So what is the, no, I'm not gonna go down that road right now. Okay, so, do we have any comments from our public and invited guests? Anything else for the good of the order here?
Can I just ask, is the resource officer carrying it out?
Well, so yeah, I don't want to get ahead of the discussion. 'cause it's
Right,
going to
right.
board meeting.
Yeah, don't,
I'm just curious.
yeah,
But that
go to
was
the Board of Ed
recommendation.
meeting.
I will.
yeah,
That was the recommendation.
I have a question with Park and Rec. Since Emery Park is closed, is anything gonna be available for the public?
As far as,
Swimming or anything? At one point, they were talking about Club Getaway, but now that's part of the summer program.
yeah, I think that might have been missed.
Okay,
I don't think there were any conversations to have Club Getaway open as a swimming option because they're so busy. I mean, they have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kids there on any weekday.
but Camp Kent is gonna be there? Okay,
if
And
you-
to chime in with Fran, just on Emery Park, again, where are we? Are we gonna go ahead with whatever you want to call it, renovating it, or, it's really not a renovation we're talking about? Or have we looked at some other long-term solutions? Because it doesn't seem to me financially that throwing good money after bad would be really the best thing to do for the town.
There's no Park and Rec representative here.
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Right.
gotta come from Park and Rec, Jason.
Okay,
So, and we've been waiting for a while. We've got a director now, and so we'll see what transpires. Would you like me to invite him to the next meeting?
I think that would be great. I mean, I just think, that it is, along with the school, I mean, it is one of the things that I think in the livability aspect of the town and real estate, et cetera, having a facility like we have the tennis courts at that level would, I think, be in the town's interest, and hopefully ultimately real estate prices, of course.
Good, okay.
You'll just have to chase the geese away from like warm water.
oh, yeah,
They're working on that. None.
There's some thing that actually gets them to
Mm,
cut off and finally accept
Mhm.
mm.
it.
Okay. All right, but so there being no other business, would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn in Jim's absence?
So moved.
Thank you, Rufus. Okay, thank you all for coming. Bonnie, can you turn off the recorder?
Okay, thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks, enjoy, Jason.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Policy that